New York, I love you, but you're bringing me down. New York, I love you, but you're bringing me down.
I will admit I stole that song idea from the trailer for the new show. Hello muggles, my name is Ashley Starmo and welcome to my channel. So this book, I love this book. This review has been a long time coming. I read it forever ago. I was supposed to read it last summer because my friend Brooklyn, hello Brooklyn, and some of my other friends did a book club. I didn't make it to the book club and I didn't read it, so I ended up reading it and I love it. The story revolves around our main character, Tess. She just moved to New York. She's fresh out of college. She's looking for a new start. She is super, excited about living in New York, and she gets a job as a back waiter at a semi-prestigious restaurant, and she's full of hope and promise. Also, the title is brilliant. Sweetbitter kind of sums up the trajectory of what happens throughout the story, so you kind of can foreshadow what her opinions are going to be about the city and her new life in the beginning versus at the end. So I'm going to explain the reasons that I love this book by, rebuttaling reasons people hated it. So I researched a lot of what other people think about this story, and all of the reasons they hated it were reasons that I loved it. So this is like a rebuttal review, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense. People hated the writing style. I loved the writing style. It's like super saturated, almost oversaturated with detail. For some people it might slow it down and bog it down a little bit, but I think it's helpful to the story because it makes sense, because she's in a whole new environment, she's learning a bunch of new things, she's in a new city, she's at a new job. So for me, that you kind of get to go along with her because it's so visual. I think part of the reason I liked it is because of how cinematic it reads. It could feel cluttered to someone who prefers plot points to move the story along, as opposed to, focus on little intimate details or moments. It was also inspired by the author. I researched it. It was inspired by the author's real life, and I think you can totally tell because there are some details and facts about the restaurant world and just the city in general that I really don't think you can get if you haven't lived it and experienced it, just because it was so detailed, and you never once questioned the validity of the descriptions, even if they were a little bit longer than necessary. People hated the character, and I hated the character, but because I hated the character, I loved the character. Tess is a very flawed little thing. She can be mean and nice and smart and stupid and whiny and irritating, but I think that complex characters have been historically my favorite to read about, and I think it lends itself to a coming-of-age story as well. Like, if she had been picture perfect and super likable throughout the whole thing, it wouldn't have shown that she grows. And I do think that her character grows a little bit wiser, and a little her like actual character, her inside character, is a little more well-rounded by the end. I would definitely not be her friend in real life, but I might be intrigued if I crossed paths with her and she maybe be someone that I'd want to pick her brain or something. But yeah, no, she isn't likable for sure. People hated the relationships. I loved the relationships. So even though her relationship skills were not necessarily great and the relationship with these people were kind of shitty, it made for an interesting read. I would have liked some of the other characters to be a little more fleshed out, especially Simone and Jake. However, I do understand that that was like a main criticism of the book, but I also understand that if those characters had been more fleshed out, it wouldn't necessarily have been Tess's coming of age story. So this book isn't for everyone, and it really doesn't need to be. So the fact that I used reasons people hated this book to explain to you why I liked it kind of tells you you're probably going to have either a very cold, off-putting experience while reading this, or you're really going to enjoy it. So I think you're definitely, once you get into it, you'll know within the first 2 chapters if you're gonna like the book or not. Let me know if you read Sweetbitter. Let me think if you think it was overrated, because I know a lot of like fashion bloggers posted this book on Instagram, and yeah, some of the criticisms were that it was overhyped. Personally, I don't think it was, but that's just me. Also, can we just take 1 second to appreciate the aesthetics of this book? Like, good job. When I write a book, I want it to look like this. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, I will see you on Friday with a film-related video.